Let's unpack the sound of silence together. That classic Simon and Garfunkel track that somehow feels more relevant today than when it was written. We're going line by line through all five verses to understand what Paul Simon was really getting at with those haunting lyrics. No hype, no fluff, just a straightforward look at why this song about silence speaks so loudly. Whether you're hearing it for the first time or the hundredth, there's always something new to discover in these words. The first verse sets the tone for the entire song by introducing the theme of isolation and introspection. The opening line, "Hello, darkness, my old friend," immediately creates a sense of familiarity with loneliness. Darkness here isn't just the absence of light, it's a metaphor for solitude, sadness, or even the subconscious mind. By calling it an old friend, the person suggests they've spent a lot of time in this state, almost as if it's a comforting, if not melancholic, presence in their life. The next line, "I've come to talk with you again," reinforces this idea of returning to a private, silent space where the person can reflect. It's like having a one sided conversation with their own thoughts or emotions. The choice of the word talk instead of listen is interesting. It implies the person is the one needing to express something rather than seeking answers from the darkness. The following lines introduce a vision softly creeping that planted seeds in the person's mind while they slept. This could symbolize an idea, a realization, or even a worry that took root in their subconscious. Dreams often reveal hidden truths, so this vision might represent something the person has been avoiding or hasn't fully understood while awake. The fact that it still remains suggests it's lingering, unresolved, and possibly troubling. Finally, the verse ends with the phrase, "within the sound of silence," which is the core paradox of the song. Silence, by definition, has no sound, but here it's almost alive, something that can hold thoughts, emotions, and even visions. It's not just the absence of noise, it's a space where unspoken truths and unshared feelings exist. This sets up the rest of the song, where silence becomes a metaphor for disconnection between people, between words and meaning, and between society and deeper truths. Overall, this verse paints a picture of someone retreating into their own mind, wrestling with thoughts they can't shake, all while surrounded by an eerie, almost haunting quiet. It's a powerful opening that makes the listener feel the weight of unspoken words and the loneliness that comes with them. In the second verse, the imagery shifts from internal reflection to an external scene, but the feeling of isolation remains strong. The line, "In restless dreams, I walked alone," suggests a state of unease. This isn't peaceful solitude, but something more unsettled. The word restless implies that even in sleep or in thoughts, the person can't find calm. Walking alone on narrow streets of cobblestone adds to the mood. It's not an open, welcoming space, but a tight, possibly claustrophobic one, like wandering through an old, empty city at night. The next lines, "Neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp," create a vivid picture of someone bracing against the world. The halo around the street lamp might hint at something almost sacred or ghostly, but it's a small, artificial light in the darkness, not enough to provide real warmth or comfort. Turning up the collar against the cold and damp is a physical act of self protection, but it also feels symbolic. It's like the person is shielding themselves not just from the weather, but from something deeper. Maybe loneliness, maybe the harshness of reality. Then comes the sudden, jarring moment when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light. The word stabbed is intense. It's not just that the light appears, it violently interrupts the quiet darkness. Neon lights are man made, bright, and often associated with advertising or nightlife, so this could represent the intrusion of modern, superficial society into the person's introspection. The light split the night, another aggressive verb, suggesting that this moment shatters the silence, but not in a good way. Finally, the verse ends with, and touch the sound of silence, which ties back to the first verse's theme. Even though the neon light is loud and glaring, it doesn't break the silence. It touches it, almost as if the silence absorbs the disturbance without truly being disrupted. This reinforces the idea that silence in the song isn't just quiet. It's something vast and unshakable, a backdrop to everything, even the noisy distractions of the world. Overall, this verse takes us from the person's inner thoughts to a lonely, cold walk through a city where the outside world feels just as isolating as their mind. The neon light doesn't bring connection or meaning. It's just another layer over the same heavy silence. It's like the person is surrounded by a world that's busy and bright, but still feels empty. In verse 3, the song takes a sharp turn from personal solitude to a broader critique of society's emptiness. The opening line, "And in the naked light I saw," suggests a moment of raw, unfiltered clarity. The naked light could symbolize harsh truth, stripping away illusions to reveal what's really beneath the surface. What the person sees is 10,000 people, maybe more, a massive crowd, yet instead of connection, there's a haunting sense of disconnection. The next lines, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, capture the central irony of modern communication. People are saying words, but there's no real meaning or depth behind them. They are hearing sounds but not truly listening, which implies a lack of understanding or empathy. This could be a commentary on superficial conversations, media noise, or even societal indifference, where everyone is surrounded by voices, yet no one is truly connecting. The following line, people writing songs that voices never shared, adds another layer. On one level, it could be about artists creating work that doesn't express real emotion or truth, just empty repetition. But it might also hint at unspoken truths, ideas or feelings that should be expressed but are stifled either by fear, conformity, or the weight of silence itself. The verse ends with, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence, which drives home the song's core theme. The silence isn't peaceful, it's oppressive. People are aware of it, but they're too afraid or complacent to break it. It's like society is trapped in a collective hush, avoiding uncomfortable truths. The word dared is key here. It suggests that speaking up would be an act of courage, but no one is willing to try. Overall, this verse shifts from the personal to the universal, painting a picture of a world where people go through the motions of communication but never truly engage. The sound of silence isn't just absence, it's an active force, something society upholds by refusing to speak or listen deeply. It's a powerful critique of how humans can be surrounded by noise, yet still feel utterly alone. In verse 4, the person shifts from observation to confrontation, desperately trying to break through the emotional barricade of society. The verse opens with, "Fools, said I, you do not know," a sudden burst of frustration. The word fools is harsh, almost biblical in its judgment, suggesting the person sees people as blind to their own spiritual or emotional decay. The line, "Silence, like a cancer, grows," is one of the song's most powerful metaphors. It frames silence not as peaceful, but as something malignant, spreading invisibly and destroying connections from within. Cancer doesn't announce itself loudly. It consumes quietly, just like the unspoken distances between people. The next lines: hear my words that I might teach you, take my arms that I might reach you, reveal the person's yearning to bridge this gap. There's a preacher like urgency here, as if they're offering both wisdom, teach you, and emotional rescue, reach you. Yet, the very structure of these lines feels futile. They're conditional, that I might, implying the attempt is already doomed. The person's plea is undercut by the next line. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell. Raindrops should make sound, but these don't. They vanish without impact, absorbed by the same silence they're trying to break. The added detail that they echoed in the wells of silence twists the knife. It's a beautiful but tragic image. An echo implies emptiness, a vast void where words bounce back unheard. Wells are deep and isolating, suggesting the person's message is trapped in the very thing they're fighting against. This verse is the song's emotional climax, where the person's anger and helplessness collide. They recognize the danger of silence, like a cancer, try to combat it with words and connection, but ultimately fail. The silence isn't just passive. It's an active force that swallows every attempt at communication. It's a devastating commentary on how even the most sincere efforts to connect can be rendered meaningless in a world that refuses to truly listen. The futility here is crushing. The person is shouting into a chasm, and the chasm doesn't even bother to shout back. In the final verse, the song reaches its bleak yet poetic conclusion, revealing how society worships its own emptiness while true wisdom goes ignored. The opening lines, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, paint a dystopian image of modern idolatry. The neon god isn't a traditional deity, but a man made illusion, a symbol of consumerism, media, or technology, something artificial that people treat as sacred. The word neon ties back to the earlier flash of light in verse 2, reinforcing how society has traded depth for the superficial brightness. People are devoted to this hollow god, bowing and praying to it, but it's a false religion, one that keeps them trapped in the same cycle of silence. Then comes the warning, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming. The sign, likely another neon advertisement or some impersonal, flickering message, ironically becomes the prophet here. It's a machine delivering truth, but in a way no one truly absorbs. The words themselves are crucial. The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls. This suggests that real wisdom isn't found in grand speeches or institutions, but in the ignored, greedy corners of everyday life: subways, transient, underground, and tenements, poor, overlooked. Prophetic truths are there, but they're graffiti, whispers, things people walk past without seeing. The closing line, and whispered in the sound of silence, brings the song full circle. The truth exists, but it's barely audible, drowned out by the same silence that has smothered connection throughout the song. The word whispered is haunting because it implies that the message is fragile, easily missed. Even the prophets, those who might disrupt the silence, are reduced to echoes. This verse is the final indictment of a society that worships noise and spectacle but remains spiritually mute. The neon god distracts people from the truths hidden in plain sight, and the sound of silence, now carrying both the weight of truth and the tragedy of being unheard, becomes the song's last chilling refrain. It's not just that people aren't speaking, it's that the most important words are lost in the void they've created. The silence wins.